A wise man adapts himself to circumstances as water shapes itself to the vessel that contains it. That is a Chinese proverb. Welcome to episode 148. The topic of this week's episode is Got Payroll? My guest this week is Charles J. Reed. Charles is an author, certified public accountant, U.S. tax court practitioner, member of the Internal Revenue Service Advisory Council, and the founder of Get Payroll. Charles is an accomplished senior executive and entrepreneur with more than 50 years of financial leadership experience in a broad range of industries. Mr. Reed's companies have provided full-service payroll services, payroll tax services, and other payroll-related services since 1991. Hi, Charles. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Trina, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's so exciting to speak with you. I'm very excited because I've never had anyone in your profession on the show before. So I think this is going to be very valuable to the listeners. And I see you are a former Marine, which I am a ex-naval officer. And you have, you have a lot of stuff going on that I think is going to be very, very valuable to everybody, at least as valuable to me. So how I usually start the show is I ask my guests to tell the listeners who you are and how you come to be the Charles that you are today.
Surely. But one comment up front, of course, we both the Marines and the Navy are parts of the Department of the Navy, as you know, as a naval officer, as my father was. Of course, the Marines are the men's department, but, you know. I grew up I'm a Midwestern boy. I grew up in Iowa. My father was a Navy commander and a long way from the ocean, but reserve officer. Went to high school, skipped a year of high school, graduated early. Didn't want to go to college. Had hated high school. Bored out of my mind. So I went in the Marine Corps. Boot camp, then transferred overseas, spent a tour in Vietnam. And when that first bullet went whizzing by my left ear, I said, Charles, what are you doing here? It was a life-changing experience, I promise you. Came back, was stationed in Kansas City, met and married my wife. Ruth had 5 children when I married her. I claim insanity. Found that the business community didn't value my military experience then. And they still don't.
Yeah, we can talk about that
a number of times, all the time. It's terrible. Yep. It's a matter of they've never been there, so they don't understand. Right. Those of us who have been there understand. Anyway, so I went to college, got my BBA and my MBA, sat for and passed my CPA exam while I was still in graduate school. Went to work for Texas Instruments, spent 15 years working for businesses large and small. Did turnarounds, did other things, got a lot of good experience, and then realized I was never going to run a major corporation. I don't have the political skills. I'm unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So I'm never going to get to the top of a major corporation. So I'm going to run one like my father did. I'm going to have to start my own. So Ruth and I started our own firm here 30 years ago, 1991. And we've been successful. Ruth has passed. She passed 6 years ago. But we're still growing and having fun. We provide payroll services to small and medium-sized businesses. It started out as an accounting firm as well, doing taxes for personal and business. And then I sold off the accounting practice to my partner about 10 years ago. And I now concentrate on payroll. Still do some taxes for friends and acquaintances, but mostly payroll and payroll taxes. And we're kind of really experts on that now.
Wow, that's very interesting. Just your journey, and on the show on Trina Talk, that's one of the things that really interests me with my guest is your journey, not so much as what you're doing, but I also like to hear the journey. And you, like me, it's funny because I could have that conversation forever. How corporate just doesn't know what to do with military people. They don't value us. They don't understand the value that we bring. So
Nope.
That's been my fight. And also after spending, years in the military and then actually in corporate as a IT person, I did like you did. I was like, I'm never going to make it to, Mahogany Row. Don't want to. And I'm better served using my skills to work for myself. So
yes,
totally understand that. So what was it that made you make that decision? What was the impetus that you said, you know what, I'm done with this?
Well, I'd been working for JCPenney's, and we got into a disagreement. They wanted to move me again back to the wilds of eastern Arkansas, and I had no desire to go back to some little town in eastern Arkansas. So I said, I got a contract here, and they said, we got a floor full of lawyers, so help yourself. And I'd gotten real tired of my life being at somebody else's whim. They could tell me what to do, when to do it, how much they were going to pay me, and if I didn't like it, I could leave. I don't like that. I don't like living at somebody else's whim. So I said, bull. I grew up in a family business. My parents worked together, which when I started my business with my wife, I found out that's not really natural to work with your spouse, but that's a whole nother story. But I got real tired of living at somebody else's whim, and I was in my early 40s. And I just said, enough's enough. I can do it better. I can provide services to people, and I can be successful. And I'm smart. I'm educated. I'm experienced. I'm a CPA. I opened my own shop. So I bought a franchise. Franchisee I was working for them after I left Penny's. I was COO for a few months, bought the original store. It was a mobile accounting service with a payroll sideline. And a year later, the franchisor went belly up due to mismanagement. So Ruth and I just changed the name and kept on going. And 30 years later, here I am. But yeah, I just don't like, if somebody said, Charles, we want you to come work for this company, the only way I'd consider it is if they gave me 51% of the voting stock.
I hear you.
Other than that, I don't care who it is. I'm not interested.
Yeah. I hear you. I love it. Yeah, we're kindred spirits. I like that. So as a CPA, you said you used to do taxes. Now you're a payroll firm. You help small and medium-sized businesses. Go and tell the listeners exactly how you help them, because when I think about payroll, just a layman, I just think about, the people who actually, I'm a business. I send my accounts over to you, and you separate that for each employee and send it out, take the taxes out and whatever. So tell the listeners what you do.
Well, that's the start of it. You send us the hours they've worked and what you want to pay them per hour or their salary. And we take that information, but we then calculate the correct amount to pay them. We calculate all the correct amounts to withhold. We make all those deposits for you. We file all the forms with the state, with the federal government, with local if need be. We're responsible for that. We make sure they're all done on time, they're all done properly. And when the IRS makes a mistake, and they make millions of them every year, we solve that because we take a power of attorney from our clients that lets us represent them to the IRS and advocate for them, unlike most of our competitors, which means that I'm a CPA. I've spent the last 3 years on the IRS Advisory Council. I know these people. I've had lunch with the commissioner of the IRS. Chuck's a nice guy. I've met all the commissioners of the various business entities and their assistants. And we've spent the last 3 years helping them solve problems in the IRS and create new things and so on. And I've been doing this for 30 years. In many cases, when I'm talking to the IRS, I know more than they do. So, because I'm specialized and they get shifted around and they're new and budget's low, they don't get the training they should, and they don't have the people they should. And so, and with COVID, of course, it's a mess. But so we're compliance experts. We make sure everything's done right. In fiscal 19, the IRS issued $13 billion, that's with a B, dollars of employment tax penalties.
Wow.
The average small business gets hit, 40% of the average small business gets a penalty for employment for taxes, and it averages $800.
And what is that penalty and why? How does that happen?
Late filing, late depositing, arithmetic errors, sending it to the wrong place, computer errors at the IRS, interpretation errors at the IRS, things not getting opened on time, things getting lost. We get mail literally every day from the IRS, and most of it is nonsense. Most of it is things that we just write back and say, here's the copy, here's where we filed it, here's the correct calculation. No, you've misinterpreted this. You didn't understand that. You're not looking at the form. Yes, this adds up. Here's where we made the deposit. Here's our proof of it. I don't know why it's not in your file, but here's the proof that we made it on a timely basis, and so on and so forth. It's a lot of minutia that you could handle as a taxpayer if you knew all the ins and outs, and if you knew all the IRS manuals, and if you knew the people to talk to. You're outsourcing a problem to us that if you had the education and the time and the training, you could handle. I mean, it's not rocket science, or this is not brain surgery, okay? This is forms and numbers and simple arithmetic, but it's dotting the I's, crossing the T's. That's what CPAs are good at. You know, we're professional nitpickers. So this is what we do. And then we know how to make the IRS admit that they made a mistake, that they're wrong, and they need to refund the money or abate the penalty, on and on and on and on. And since we do it, we also are professionals at this. So when it's your tax money and the IRS is accusing you of doing something wrong and you didn't do it, you get upset and you have a tendency to raise your voice and say things to them that you might not say if it was somebody else's money. So we can present your case. We can advocate for our clients very effectively. My staff is amazed. One day I was talking to an IRS examiner in New York, and we chatted for half an hour talking about grandkids. So when we got done with that conversation, we went to the business piece we were discussing. Now, she has a lot of discretion. They all do, of what they can do and say and allow things or abate things or not, and so on. So after a half hour talking about grandkids, how do you think she viewed me?
Oh, you were her buddy then.
Exactly. As opposed to a taxpayer that's screaming at her that she's a no good, rotten witch that's trying to steal money from them. Okay. So it allows us, and then we know the law and we know the rules, and they sometimes, we have to explain it to them. I've had to teach them the law on more than one occasion because they weren't experienced in it. They're new in that spot or haven't been in a different department, and they don't know everything that I know after 30 years. So, it's fun and games.
Yeah, I don't think anyone considers the IRS fun and games. And you and I talked about my issue, and I'm that person that would be like, so yeah, maybe next time I need to talk, I'll call you and you can call them for me.
Let me call them for you. Exactly.
Because I was trying very, very hard to be very nice and not upset. Because I was like, okay, if I'm nice, maybe they'll push things along.
I'll be honest, when it's my money and they've screwed up my payroll taxes or my taxes, I'm not near as nice to them.
So you're just like all of us other mere mortals then.
Absolutely. When it's my money, I get pissed. They're stealing from me.
What are you doing? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's not fun. So and I'm not at that point yet, but I hope to be soon. So when a small business, how does a small business know when they need to hire you?
Frankly, when you incorporate and you are an employee of your corporation, or you file your LLC as a S corp for tax purposes, or you hire your first employee, you ought to call us.
Okay.
It's not worth the effort.
Okay.
I don't make my own cars. I don't build my own house. I don't sew my own suits. I outsource that. I outsource. We all do. We shop at the grocery store. All that's outsourced. Houses are built. Cars are built. I don't paint. I don't even mow my own lawn. Right. I outsource that. Okay. So if you're in business and you're good at what you're doing and you're focused on that, your time is so important. Why waste it on minutia?
Yeah.
You don't build your own telephone. You don't write letters by hand anymore. You use computers. All these things. You outsource. You speed things up, and to take on this task, which you could do, you could learn. Absolutely, you could learn. But why?
Right. So,
I mean,
I'm incorporated my business. So you're saying me, just a party of one, I could call you and do it, or should I wait till I hire one person?
Okay. See, since you're incorporated, you have to pay yourself compensation.
Okay. So
you can't just take draws. And some people do. They just take draws. Well, that's illegal. You have to take W-2 compensation and file your 941s and your W-2 and your 940, your state unemployment. All that has to be filed. State revenue, state withholding, all that has to be done, depending on the state and the locality you live in. So if you're not doing that, but you're making money at what you're doing, you got another problem.
We'll talk offline. But no, so where are you based at, and do you go all over the United States? How do people find you?
We're just north of Dallas, but we take care of clients in all 50 states in the District of Columbia. Okay. So as you can see on the backdrop, it's Get Payroll, getpayroll.com. If you want me personally, it's cjr@getpayroll.com.
Okay. Oh, I'm writing that down because I may have to call you. I'll be like, Charles, help me out. I need some help. Oh man. So yeah, you're this tax leader, you've done all this stuff, you financial. I think on your website that you also teach at a high school. Do you still do that?
I taught intro to business every morning for 5 years at the local high school before my wife had her first stroke. And that was a blast. I'd go in, 8:30, teach for an hour, then come to the office and work a full day. But working with the young kids, it was a blast. And I really enjoyed teaching. I enjoyed teaching more at high school than I did at college. I've been an adjunct professor off and on for many years. But teaching in high school, and of course, in school these days, it's more liberal than it was. I was the only man in the school that wore a tie and a coat. Mm-hmm. The assistant principal wore a tie, but never a coat. Mm-hmm. No other man in school wore a tie. So I taught in a tie and a coat. It would get hot. I'd take the coat off, but I'd leave the tie on. And my students, when they spoke, they stood up and spoke. Mm-hmm. And I addressed them as Mr. or Miss So-and-so, and they addressed me as Mr. Reader, sir. And military.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to. I would do that.
And that's the way it was. And we had a great class. It was a lot of fun. I didn't have problems, but I brought in a lot of business people, a lot of really sharp people from the community, the congressman, the superintendent, local business people, all kinds of things. And they really appreciated the fact that I gave them the unvarnished truth. No bull. This is how life really is, guys.
Right.
One of my favorite things was in the spring at the appropriate point. I had an assignment for them. They were all to go home and ask their parents what their parents were going to leave them when they died. You have never seen a group of more abashed high school students in your life. Their parents, for the most part, said, leave you something. You're going to take care of us when we get old, and so on and so forth. And these kids had never thought about this.
Right.
And all of a sudden, life has slapped them upside the head and gone, wow.
That's what I have to look forward to.
Exactly. So we had a lot of fun in class, teaching intro to business and all the things associated with a survey course like that. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. Now, when when businesses come to you for their payroll or tax advice, whatever that is, what is maybe a common theme or common mistake that you see businesses making?
Well, new businesses particularly tend to pay in cash, tend to think that, well, everybody I can just pay as a 1099. I don't have to withhold and give them a W-2. And, I just treat them as independent contractors. And the Labor Department estimates that 70% of all businesses in the U.S. misclassify workers. Okay, 70%. Either as independent contractors versus employees or hourly versus salary. So all those things you've got to learn because you're probably doing it wrong. Okay. You're either not paying them properly and you don't have a choice. You don't get to choose. You don't get to say, oh, you're an independent contractor. There's a whole body of law and rules and regulations and court cases that determine whether a worker is an employee or an independent contractor. And it changes.
Oh, wow.
There was a whole new set of regulations that was implemented under the Trump administration, supposed to go into effect March 8th. On March 8th, the Biden administration canceled them.
Wow. And
they're proposing a whole new set of rules. So if you're a business owner, you don't know from day to day or year to year what's right or wrong. Somebody like us, we keep up on the trades. I get 5 emails a week from the IRS on different aspects of taxation. 5 every week. And I read them.
Wow.
Sometimes I put them on my nightstand to cure insomnia, but, excuse me. So we keep up on it. We take the trades. We deal with people. We go to conferences and I have continuing professional education and so on. And we keep up on this stuff. As a business owner, you can't, and the rules change. So that's the biggest mistake small and new businesses make is classification and paying people as independent contractors. And it can be very, very expensive in terms of penalties and interest. And then for small corporations, like, as you were saying, they're not paying themselves correctly either.
Yeah. God. Oh no, you're depressing me, Charles.
It's all curable.
So in just simple, quick terms, what is the difference between a general contractor that you would give a 1099 to or someone that you would give a W-2 to?
Well, there's 20 common law rules that are the basis, English common law rules that have come over to the U.S. But it basically comes down to control. Can they substitute somebody? When I do a tax return, if I have one of my people do it and I sign my name to it, that's my business. You don't get to tell me I can't do that. Okay? If you can tell me I have to do the job and only I, then I'm probably an employee. Is it an ongoing relationship? Do I show up every day? If I just come in to wash the windows once a year, I'm probably an independent contractor because I'm doing it with my tools, my training, maybe my professional designation, all these things that set me aside. I'm a CPA. I have a license from the state. I do your taxes once a year, or I do your payroll, once every 2 weeks. I'm not there. I'm not integral to your business. I'm an important thing, but I'm not part of your business. I don't produce your podcast. I don't select your guests. I don't do the editing. I don't do all that. That would make me more like an employee because I'm critical to your business. My customer service reps, they're critical to my business. They're a part of it. And without them, I have a real problem because I can't do it all. I promise you. So they're employees. So that's the control factor. It's behavior and control and financial wherewithal. And do they depend upon you for a living? That's another thing. So, and it's a preponderance of those items, not just this one or this one. There's 20 common law rules that the IRS has tried to break down into 3 areas, and that's been thrown out, and it gets adopted and unadopted. But the courts go back to the 20 common law rules.
Wow.
So
yeah, okay, you just made my head explode. So it's like okay. But you're also an author. Tell us about your books.
Well, it's all in here. Everything about independent contractors. Okay, the Payroll book, a guide for small businesses and startups. Wiley published it late last year. I like to say it's 30 years of experience distilled down to 95,000 words. And it's for small businesses. And these questions you're asking are all answered, along with a million other things to help make payroll simple and easy for small business people. If you've got a 500-person company, you've got a payroll expert. You've got somebody like me on staff that you're paying to oversee all this. And you don't need me. We do anywhere from 1 person up to several hundred, but at some point, bigger companies take it in-house. But for the small business or the startup, the book really gives a lot of good essential knowledge, and it points out a lot of the pitfalls. There's a lot of horror stories in there about things not to do. The guy that had the business, and he had a corporation, he took it all as drafts and didn't take any compensation. And the IRS came back and said, no, you have so much, and we're going to recharacterize that as income, and you owe all the taxes that you didn't deposit, plus penalties and interest, plus late filing and late paying and everything else. Goodness. Very expensive.
Oh my goodness.
So these are the kind of things that I point out, that if you go through it and, pick the areas that you need, there's some areas you won't. It will keep you from getting in as deep to the IRS as you otherwise might.
Okay, so I'm gonna get that. But what's the title of that book again?
The title is The Payroll Book, a guide for small business startups. It's available from Wiley. It's available from Amazon. Wiley's the publisher. But for your listeners, if they'll go to thepayrollbook.com, which is the site for the book, and enter in the discount code podcast, we will send your listeners a free book.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be the first to sign up. And again, so that discount code is podcast. So PODCAST. So absolutely. Everyone out there, that's for the Payroll book. So, man, I mean, this is so interesting. It's like I can talk to you forever about this, because I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't know that. So I was thinking about this. So the payroll processing company, is it ADP? AP? Yeah.
That's the biggest of them, yes.
So are you guys doing the same thing, but you said they're bigger? So are they, like you were saying, where the big companies have them?
They do. The big companies do their own. Okay. They're a direct competitor of ours. We have a couple of things going for us. I'm a CPA and a U.S. tax court practitioner, and I'll talk to clients. You can't get a professional at ADP. You'll get payroll people, but you won't get a CPA or a tax court practitioner. And when you call ADP, you're going to get a call center, and you'll never talk to the same person twice. Yeah. So they don't do bad work. I'm not saying that. But when it comes down to compliance, if you got a problem with the IRS, you want a professional.
Yeah.
You don't want a payroll clerk or a payroll clerk supervisor. You want a tax professional that can advocate for you with the Internal Revenue Service. And that's what we do. And that's our unique selling proposition. We're compliance experts, and we have the professional credentials to go along with it, as well as the training and experience.
Yeah. So where ADP is strictly, they're just processing your payroll, you have that extra specialty where, you're talking to the IRS. You have probably legal on your staff, or the ins and outs of it.
Well, I'm a U.S. Tax Court practitioner. I have a bar card with the U.S. Tax Court. Even though I'm not an attorney, there's a couple of hundred of us that are specialized enough and have taken the exam and gotten approved as tax court practitioners by the U.S. Tax Court. So I can represent you or any of my clients in U.S. Tax Court, even though I'm not an attorney.
Okay. So I know, and I'm glad you answered that, because that was my next question. What exactly does that mean? So basically, you're a tax attorney, but not an attorney. Okay.
Yeah. Now I can't practice in district court, but I can practice in the U.S. Tax Court.
Wow.
And I do.
Really?
I'm very successful so far. I haven't lost one yet. I'm sure I will at some point, but so far I'm perfect.
Wow. So how much does your services cost, like for someone who wants to hire you, or does it depend on how many?
It depends on how often you pay, how many people you have, some other things that go into it. It's a lot less than what your time is worth, I promise you.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll give a formal quote to anybody once we know their exact circumstances. We're more than happy to. We're not a bait and switch. We're not a nickel and dime operation like some of our competitors are. You ask for another report, we'll just generate it. We won't charge an extra $2 per payroll for it. And so
that's $2 per page.
and our competitors do it all the time. And it makes me cringe.
Wow. So in this instance, this is where it's good to go with the smaller company, because you're getting more personalized service.
Yeah. And okay, I did this one time as a joke. I tried to get a hold of the president of ADP. And the switchboard explained to me that he does not have a phone. Once they determined I was really trying to reach the president of ADP, because I said I want to talk to the president, they said, the president of what? So when I said the president of ADP, he doesn't have a phone. I know she's lying to me. He has a phone on his desk. I promise. Okay. He can call out anytime he wants. But as a client, you can't call him. You call my company, ask for Charles, you'll get me if I'm in.
He doesn't have a phone.
If not, I'll call you back.
Right. Wow. Oh my goodness. See, yeah, I'm cringing at these stories here, because I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't want to be one of those people. It's like, oh no. Oh my goodness. So with our listeners, like you say, you're like, contact you as soon as possible, so that you don't go down that road of the one gentleman that you said that, they're like, okay, you owe us this, and this, and this. And now you're owing the government $1 million.
We get a lot of those that come in and go, I got this problem.
Fix it.
And I go, all right, let's sit down and take a look at it, and we'll solve it, and then put them on payroll and keep it from happening again.
Goodness. So do you have offices all over, or you pretty much you can work remotely like all of us?
We used to have multiple offices, but we've consolidated all back into the Dallas area. There's just no reason to, with technology these days, to be everywhere. I can talk to the IRS from anywhere. I can talk to any office. Tax court's always in Dallas if I request it. On and on and on. It's just there was a day, but
yeah. Nowadays, why spend the money in the space?
Yeah, most of the payroll goes out direct deposit or debit card. We send checks for some people, but it's electronic. The world, believe me, in 30 years, I've seen technology change a bunch.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, and the fact that you've been in business for 30 years, that says something, to me. It's like, wow, that means you really know what you're doing to actually sustain for 30 years and be successful. So that's the great
Thank
thing.
you. It is.
Man. So I have one question, me being a techie. So I have one question that's kind of off the beaten path, but I want to ask. So you've heard of like the payroll diversion schemes that hackers do. Have you heard of those?
Sure.
So what are you doing to prevent that? Well, how could you tell people that, okay, doing business with us is going to be safe and secure?
Well, payroll fraud is a huge problem, internally and externally. And by outsourcing it, you increase the security of it substantially. The records aren't there for people to touch and play with and look at. In many cases, there are no check stubs anymore. It's all direct deposit. It's all online, so people can get their information, but only they can get it. Everything's encrypted. We deal directly with our banks. We draft your funds as a single item, so there's not checks floating around. Check fraud is a huge case. So we recommend that you don't do checks. Direct deposit is a lot more difficult to commit fraud on. So, and we're part of a national association. So, the checks that we do issue are very high grade with all kinds of security features. The banks we work with understand ACH, and we just don't have the problems that small businesses have trying to do it themselves. We have very sophisticated software. We look at this stuff all the time. We probably get 2 or 3 fraud tries a week on us. And we've gotten very good at avoiding them. We've had one loss from fraud in the last 10 years, and was less than $2,000.
Yeah.
So, when the banks say, well, they're worried about the risk and so on, I go, hey, my loss ratio is a lot better than your loan loss ratio. I promise you. Because we do literally hundreds of millions of dollars of payroll. Okay. If not billions. And we just don't have losses because we're concerned, and our encryption and our software and our oversight is geared toward that. We know what happens. We see it all the time. We get fraud attempts all the time. We just don't allow it.
Yeah, that's good. And like I said, me being a techie, I'm always telling people, everyone, businesses, that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because hackers are everywhere and they're always trying. So any little crevice that they can get in, they're going to try it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to try it. So,
and we also aren't the target that ADP is.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
They have a big target painted on their back. We don't.
Exactly. All right, Charles, we're going to get into our questions. Are you ready?
I hope so.
You had to think about that. Okay. I'm gentle. Have no fear. Everybody, every time I get to that portion, people's faces change and they're looking at me like, oh my God, what is she going to ask? I'm gentle. Okay. All right. Question 1. Who or what motivates you?
Wow. Frankly, my motivation comes from my military background, the discipline that I developed from my father being a naval officer and 4 years in the Marine Corps. It taught me that the mission is the thing to accomplish first. Mission, men, self, in that order. And so my mission is to provide payroll services to as many small businesses as I possibly can and have fun doing it. And that's motivate. I get up and I enjoy coming to work every day.
Nice. What demotivates you?
Big egos. People that are smart ass that think they know everything and want to tell me how to do my job.
Wow. Yeah.
No, go away. I don't need that kind of aggravation.
When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
After the military, I interviewed with an insurance company here in Dallas, and they told me that my military experience, I was a computer programmer. I was a systems engineer. IBM trained me. The Marine Corps sent me to IBM for training. I'd been working on COBOL, and I had moved from 1401 to 360 autocoded to COBOL on the Joint Unified Military Pay System. Huge fiscal system, right? And this rinky-dink insurance company who was moving from 1401 to 360 told me that my experience didn't apply.
Wow. Yep, they do that.
It's the only time I ever told a recruiter that he was full. The company went bankrupt about 15 years later, and I always blamed on that damn recruiter because he was hiring the wrong people. That got me to go to school, get my degrees, and led me to where I'm at. So I owe him thanks.
Yeah.
But he's probably dead by now.
Oh my goodness. What is your fear?
That I'm not good enough.
Okay. Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Oh, there's a bunch of them, but we're not going to go into them.
Just give me a little one.
Well, a little one. I don't know. I was married for 45 years, and there's things I wish I'd done. But I don't have any big regrets.
Okay, so what about this one? Is there a time you wish you had not done something?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't compared my wife's applesauce to my grandmother's.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Yep. So for the next 45 years, I did most of the cooking.
Teach you. Teach you for saying something.
That taught me, that's where I learned, happy wife, happy life.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What is your definition of success? And it is not talking about your wife's cooking.
Success is internal. It's not money. It's not position. It's not titles. Success is being happy with yourself.
Yes.
Not content, but happy.
Yeah.
Enjoying what you are and what you do and how you relate to the world and your fellow man. And if you're happy with your philosophy of how you do those things, that's success.
I love that. How do you recharge?
I read. I don't watch TV.
Okay.
I've given that up. Most of it's garbage. I read. I read all the time. I love to read. And I answered a Haro today about that. And man, with reading, if you like to read, you can educate yourself on anything in the world. There's books on it. Anything, you name it, there's books. Yeah. Read. You can learn to do anything.
Yeah. What legacy do you want to leave?
The Rotary Club of Dallas Foundation, I'm a Rotarian, I have been for 25 years, has a scholarship fund that I've funded, and it's the Ruth Reed Memorial Scholarship Fund. And that's where my wealth is going when I die. The business is going to my employees, but the house and the building and investments and retirement is all going into that scholarship fund because I loved Ruth more than life itself.
Oh, so touching.
And so she is going to be my legacy. There will, for the foreseeable future, be scholarships every year in her name.
Wow. Wow. And the scholarships are going to go to who? What's the criteria?
We have a high school that we mentor students at and provide scholarships, and it's to deserving students there that need help with college.
Wow. Beautiful. That's very, very nice. Give the listeners one motivational takeaway.
There is never a traffic jam on the extra mile. Go the extra mile for your clients because your competitors won't, and that will make you successful.
Wow, I like that. So tell the listeners how they can connect with you if they need your services, they want your book. Give us the whole 9 yards.
CJR, Charles J. Reed at getpayroll.com is my email. The phone number is simple, 972-353-0000. It's the only good thing GTE ever did for me. The book is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, other fine books, stores where other fine books are sold, or at thepayrollbook.com. And your listeners, input the discount code podcast. We'll send you one free of charge.
Wow.
Courtesy of Trina.
That's right. I'm not paying the shipping and handling, though.
Nope, we'll pay it.
Wow.
We'll pay everything. It's free.
Right. Well, Charles, you know what? This has been an amazing conversation. I really thank you for being on the show, for giving me some laughs, maybe making me cry too once I get off of here. I really found, your wisdom and your knowledge very valuable. And maybe we can talk about how, businesses don't use military people, don't value us. Maybe that can be another conversation for another day.
Whole other conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, but no, thank you for being on Trina Talk. I'm glad you honored us with your expertise.
My pleasure, Trina. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If you like Trina Talk podcast, please don't forget to go out to iTunes and rate it 5 stars and leave a review. Also, who else in your life do you know that needs some motivation and inspiration in their lives? Don't forget to share Trina Talk with them. I hope you have a great week. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Keep striving because success is a journey, not a destination.